Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's PulseSecure webinar. My name is Dan Deering. I head up product marketing at PulseSecure, and today I'm joined by my colleague on the technical marketing side, Mr. Asher Kanoon. And we're very excited to be here today to talk about the new family of PulseSecure appliances. You know, our excitement is really driven by the fact that this particular new product set really represents new possibilities for your business. It's going to give you a way to embrace things like BYOD and the Internet of Things and help your company potentially transform their business. So before we get into the details of that and talk about that story, I wanted to do one quick note of housekeeping, and that is if you want to drill down on any of the topics that we talk about today, there's a question button at the top of your screen. Feel free to hit that, and we'll entertain those questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, let's get started. And first of all, I wanted to sort of cover something that many of you guys are already familiar with today, and that is, you know, we're a new company, but we're a company that you've had a long relationship with already. If you look in your data center at the blue box, either it is an SA or an IC appliance, we built that box for you, and it was really to address the challenges that you had in terms of connecting remote workers to the data center. Today, we are focused on a new set of challenges in terms of helping you expand those capabilities to address a whole new set of challenges around mobility and other things that are on the horizon. So in many ways, although we have a new moniker, PulseSecure, we're still the same company that you've worked with for many years, but with renewed focus. And that focus is really about helping you retool your network. Today, many of you are confronted by a number of different challenges. Either it's mobility, or it's how to integrate cloud services into your environment. And some of you are even thinking about the Internet of Things. You know, when we look at some of the analysts out in the market today, they're telling us that, you know, BYOD is already here when it comes to advanced mobile services. 85% of the companies that IDG recently surveyed said that they're either adopting BYOD or they're already using it. On the cloud side, almost half the companies that Gartner talked to are either using cloud services as a way to augment their data center applications, or they're going totally to the cloud. So for many of them, cloud is an option. And when we talk about things that are on the horizon, the Internet of Things, basically machines that are accessing your corporate network, are also a concern for many of you. You know, Gartner found that when they talked to various CIOs in the market, you know, again, almost half of those CIOs were concerned about the Internet of Things and what it meant to their company. So what we're going to talk about today is a way to retool your network. Think about the SA or the IC that's already in your network today. It was designed for a very different set of problems. You know, it was a much simpler problem set in terms of you wanted to connect a small percentage of your employees back to the data center for applications like email. And typically, it might have been a sales team that you were connecting back to the data center for email, and they might only be connected for a couple hours of the day while they're remote, back in their hotel room, let's say, after a long day of meetings, wanting to catch up on email for a couple of hours. Today, the problem set is much more complex and requires a much more sophisticated approach. Rather than 20% of your employees being mobile, many companies now are seeing more than 50% of their employees mobile because of BYOD and the adoption of that within the company. In addition, because of just the way a mobile user behaves, those typical users are using a variety of devices. Cisco and others have said that the typical mobile user today is using a smartphone, a tablet, and a laptop. So typically, one user will drive traffic with 3 different devices. And they're accessing not just email, but a variety of applications. And those applications can either be in the cloud or in the data center. And if you think about your own workday, you probably are connected to applications and services that your IT department provides almost your entire working day. So all of that creates additional rigors on your network. And the new PulseSecure appliance has been designed specifically to address those new challenges. It gives you a way to retool your network with greater performance, more control, and versatility. So the Pulse Secure Appliance family is able to boost the performance of your network and also add additional scale to your network. But it's also that whole process is made easy with the centralized management of Pulse One. These two platforms are indicative of the new innovation that Pulse Secure as an independent company has. And all of that is meant to drive basically more applications and services that you can provide to your end users, driven by things like Pulse Workspace and the Pulse Client. Together, those things mean that you can do more with less. And when we think about more, it's really about doing more connections for users, for devices, and more types of applications that they might be accessing, again, either in the data center or the cloud. It also means about connecting things, not just humans, but things to your network, and providing you with the performance and the growth and scale to be able to do that. When we think about less, it's about leveraging the performance and the scale of the platform to do more with less. And that means fewer appliances to maintain within your data center. It means fewer clusters to deploy, so you can actually simplify. That translates into some practical things like less rack space to use, less power to consume. And when you think about managing the overall process, instead of doing management on a box-by-box basis using a web-based console or a web browser-based console, you can actually leverage Pulse One to do it from a centralized location. And that means you've just got one console to use, but more importantly, one view of your entire network. And what that means from a simplicity standpoint is that you've got fewer operational silos to really worry about. So what we're ready to do now is to sort of dive into the Pulse Secure Appliance. And to do that, I'm going to bring on Asher, who's going to really talk about the details of the platform and what it means for your network.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. So as Dan stated, we know that the trend is towards more, right? And this is more devices connecting to your network, more applications, more services, just a higher demand for these services. And with that, I'm actually very happy to introduce the Pulse Secure appliances. I was with Juniper for a while, and we went through introducing the IC SA series and then the Mag series after. And I'm actually really proud of Pulse Secure for being able to come up with our next generation appliance in such a short time. This appliance will allow you to run either Pulse Connect Secure or Pulse Policy Secure on the same box. And as we know the demand for throughput and everything is increasing, we made sure to design all of that into consideration. So above and beyond all the security aspects that we designed into it, we wanted to make sure that this box was something that our customers can put in their rack, and it'll be there for a few years. We made sure that it's high performance, high scale, and offers all the performance requirements that our customers are asking for. Not only that, we want to make sure that we're making the admin's life easier, and we'll get a little bit more into that when we look at Pulse One. But even the out-of-box experience and the way we designed this new box, getting this box up, configured, deployed, we took a lot of that into consideration on how we designed it and what kind of tools we're bringing in the box. Okay. Here we're showing our first generation. So previously in the first generation, we had basically two appliances. One appliance was dedicated for secure access, or our SSL VPN offering, and then the other box was for the NAC offering. And we had some customers that wanted to purchase separate boxes, and we had some that said, give me the hardware and let me decide what I do with it. And so for PSA, we continue to offer that. So you can order a single box, which allows you to do either one of those. And then, in cases where you're trying to maybe put out a device that's kind of a backup, you can order a single device and it'll be used however you need it. We really think this offers a little more investment protection than having to go and buy separate boxes. Okay, here we're going to look at the models. So what we have is the PSA 300 and the PSA 3000. These are pretty much equivalent boxes with different form factors, and that's important because we have customers that want to deploy something in a rack, and then we have some that want to deploy it on desktops or maybe wiring closets in branch offices or even retail spaces where they don't really have your conventional rack, but they want to be able to provide all the services we can provide. And we also show that the PSA 300 and 3000, they're replacements for our smaller offerings. Then we move over to the PSA 5000, and this will be a replacement for the older Mac 4610 and the ICSA 4500s. And then to the right, we have our large offering. This is the PSA 7000, and this comes in a couple flavors. We have the copper interfaces, or you can go pure fiber. And this one is, this is the big beast. This one is the one that allows you to scale a lot more than what we had previously, which allows you to deploy less boxes. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, our goal was to help the admins deploy this thing a lot quicker. So from a software perspective, even though we've done a lot of great things behind the scenes to allow this to scale and allow you to achieve very high throughput numbers and authentication rates, from a user perspective, the UI hasn't changed. And we've also made sure that when we look at configuration files, how we import and export, we're allowing you to, pretty much, if you're running fairly recent software on existing boxes, you can pretty much just export that configuration, import it into one of these new boxes, and you're up and running. From the client perspective, there really are no changes. So we wanted to make sure that, for most cases, you can have this box up and running in 60 minutes, and in many cases, if you really know what you're doing and you've already saved your configuration, you can have this box up and running in 20, 30 minutes. So we want to make sure that the upgrade process is simple and quick, and then there is really no learning curve for the admin. All they're doing is getting all the great feeds and speeds and new functionality and security that we're offering. Okay, one of the other things is we've been churning out a lot of software, and especially now that we're an independent company where we have the dedicated resources, we're not worried about engineering resources getting pulled off. Our cadence for delivering software is improving, and these new boxes really allow us to do a lot more things. Right? So if you look at the third column where we have the SA and IC, you can see at about 8.1 for the VPN software and 5.1 for the NAC software, we've pretty much hit the ceiling for what the headroom was on the hardware, and we really aren't able to squeeze in any more capability or speed. All of that is going into the Pulse Secure Apps, or PSA. So with PSA, you get the latest and greatest software, you get the latest and greatest functionality, all at the high speeds that your organization is demanding. All right, so that's the new hardware. As we mentioned, we not only want to give you the functionality, but we want to make this all easier to deploy. And that's where the centralized management by Pulse One comes in. Again, as someone who spent years at Juniper, I'm actually very impressed with how this company came together. Not only in that short amount of time did we get new hardware, but we also got something that we've been asking for many years while we were part of Juniper. we're able to produce a centralized management system. So our goals when we were first set out to do this is we want to simplify how we manage, and we want to be able to scale. So this was just kind of giving you a quick overview of what we have, right? Along with the dashboards that give the admins a really quick visibility into the overall system. We put in a lot of good functionality in terms of how we scale appliances, so that not only do you get visibility, but it allows you to push out configurations and do a lot of cool things on the appliances. On the mobile workspaces side, we really wanted to simplify how we do things, right? Previously, we had a few different consoles you would have to go to. Some configurations would have to be moved from one to the other. Now it's all one place. You go to one place, you can manage all of our solutions, right? And when you're deploying something that's really cool, like Workspace with Connect Secure, you can do that all really quickly and simply from Pulse One. In terms of management, we wanted to be able to make this, again, simple and yet powerful. And that's where we added all the policies, the monitoring, the reports, and administration all in one place. So not only will you be able to make sure that you have a unified policy across your whole deployment, you'll also get updates and be able to monitor what's actually going on. So in most cases, that's just telling you that, hey, everything's great, and in the cases where something might be happening, we want to be sure to give you that information and as quickly and as cleanly as we can. So now let's kind of go a little bit deeper and look at what Pulse One does. I mentioned the dashboards. What we have here is basically the collective view. What's going on overall on my system? I need to kind of know how my appliances are behaving. I want to know what's going on the workspaces that I have out there. If there's anything going on in terms of alarms, is a device okay? Did something happen? From our first dashboard, which is the first place you land, you get a really good understanding of what's going on in your system. And then if you need to drill down a little bit further, you can. Right? When we drill down, when we start moving to what we call the appliance dashboard, you get to see all your devices, and then you click on one of them, and you get this really cool-looking kind of view of what's going on. Right? Even the colors, we made it, you don't even have to actually be reading something. You can just look at the colors and say, hey, these are all green. I'm not going to worry about them. This one's yellow. Let me kind of dive into that one and see what's going on. Is it getting close to a critical state? Or the red boxes are the ones that, hey, this is, this box either trigger an alarm or there's high usage. Let me kind of drill down a little bit deeper and see what's going on. So it gives us a really good view of all of our appliances and how they're being utilized. Okay, we also give you access to our Pulse Workspace. So this is our built-in EMM. We have really market-leading and very innovative endpoint management and containerization technology for iOS and Android, and all of that stuff is managed here. Right? So here you can come in and add new users, you can add your workspaces, you can configure all your policies, and this enables us to quickly provision devices and provision email, VPN, Wi-Fi, and all the apps, and make sure that, hey, not only is your container okay, but it allows us to do the tie-in with Connect Secure to make sure that we're not only doing data at rest security, but we also do the data at transport, right? And all of that is built in, and you can access it through Pulse One. So really for us, the product portfolio that we have, it can really all be managed through Pulse One. And I think that's going to save the admins a lot of time while enabling them to get all the information and visibility they need very quickly. And speaking of the enabling of mobile services, I'll hand it back off to Dan.
Thanks, Asher. Yeah, so let's talk about, probably the first service that this solution really, brings a lot of performance and a lot of capabilities to, and that's really around mobility. The way I usually like to talk about how the various components or different solution pieces work together is what I call the 3 C's of mobility. There's a container that is basically a BYOD workspace for both iOS and Android. That would then actively work with our VPN capabilities from a connectivity standpoint. That's the second C. So we have VPN on-demand connectivity, and we also have an ActiveSync proxy where your Exchange ActiveSync traffic can flow through. And the third C is really about compliance and ensuring that devices that actually connect to your environment are healthy. So this is an extension of our host checker capabilities that we have for laptops. We now have for mobile devices, and you're looking for things that are specialized to mobile devices, like if an iOS device is jailbroken or an Android device is rooted. And as Asher pointed out, all of that is managed end-to-end via Pulse One. So we have the ability to not only look at mobility from an end-to-end as an end-to-end service, but also you can look at the appliances that your mobile devices are connecting with. So let's look at the first C, containerization. The Pulse Workspace is both an iOS and an Android container, but it's different than other containers because it is able to support any mobile app. So rather than have to rely on the ecosystem that your EMM provider basically forces upon you, you can actually use any mobile app that's available in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or it could even be an app that you actually create custom-made for your own needs. The other thing that we do for the workspace is that we simplify onboarding. I think Asher already sort of touched upon this. We auto-configure things like email, VPN, and Wi-Fi. And for some of you that might be using Exchange ActiveSync as your platform for BYOD or for mobility, here's a key thing in terms of we're able to actually allow you to auto-provision email rather than have the end user do it themselves. So all of that combined, makes it easy for the user to basically onboard into your mobility environment, but also makes him much more productive after he's done that because, again, IT can basically put any app that's needed by the user, maybe depending on their role, to be more productive. So again, the second C is around connectivity, and really this becomes an extension of the VPN appliance that you already have. But again, with the PSA, we're adding additional performance and capabilities to that such that you can now add additional services such as cloud. So we have integrated cloud capabilities are made possible by our use of SAML. And we also, when we think about connecting to the cloud and connecting to the data center, we make that an automatic process for the user by using certificate-based authentication. All of that then is really, it's foundational in terms of scale and reliability because it's based on something that you already know and something that you already use. So from an administrative standpoint, from a planning standpoint, the product basically is the same, except now it is, it has additional capabilities and additional performance. So if we think about not just only connecting remotely, but also potentially connecting locally within a campus environment, we've got some built-in NAC capabilities that help you onboard either guest users or BYOD users, and make sure that the devices that are onboarded are actually authenticated and authorized. And in doing so, we have some very granular controls that take into consideration the specialized characteristics of whether the device is a smartphone, a tablet, or a laptop. Now, if you've already got existing EMM capabilities such as AirWatch and Mobile Iron, we can actually leverage the fact that you have that in place by APIs that allow us to query the policy platform.
So not only do we make decisions and provide access based on a username and those basic type of credentials, we can also do that based on your role, your location, time, and even the type of devices. Right? This really enables true granular control over unknown devices to the corporation, which are what people are bringing in, these BYOD devices. Right? All of this works really well because of the integration we have with existing switches and access points and firewalls and things like that. We also have, MDM integration with market leaders. Again, all of this allows allows us to provide the benefits of use our policy controls and everything with any infrastructure you might have. All right, and when we look at how we enforce compliance, one of the things that is available with Pulse Workspace is the ability to first define what compliance means, right? What we want to do here is allow the user to use any device they want, but as an IT administrator, I want to make sure that my data, my network, everything is safe. So with our solution set, we allow like a unified compliance enforcement to minimize and eliminate the security gaps that might come up with devices that we really don't know, we haven't touched, we haven't seen. Right? We even go as far as preventing access or giving very limited access to devices that we detect that are jailbroken, rooted, things like that. So, we really can do the segmentation between work data and work traffic. We can remove the pieces we care about and leave the other stuff, all the personal data, personal pictures, documents, things like that. We can really leave them where they are because we really worry about those, right? And this is something that anyone that we talk to who's familiar with more of an MDM model, they really like this. This is something that their customers or their end users are accepting, right? More than here, you have complete control of my device. I just want you to control the things that you really care about. All right, and now we're going to continue and look at what we've done in terms of our enhanced support services. So following the model of keeping it simple, what we've introduced are 25% of the support SKUs that we had before. So we went from like a number of support SKUs that was like 1,800 to like 400. I mean, we really cut this down and made it simple while providing greater support for our customers. So if you look at what we have now, our first tier is the Pulse Secure Gold level of support. And what we did was we made this simpler even to order, right? So we broke it down into the hardware support, which is really easy to determine, you know what hardware you have, along with support that's just for the software based on the user count. So if you bought 1,000 licenses on a PSA 7000, you'll go find a SKU for the PSA 7000, the hardware itself, and then you'll go and find the SKU for 1,000 users. It's really simple. We're really able to eliminate a lot of the SKUs that we had before while providing even higher levels of support, right? So we've added many different categories and different things that we provide while even reducing the time that you actually get the support. So we think we're really offering one of the best industry support capabilities at Gold. If you want to step up and you want to step up to the Platinum support level, this really is best-in-class support. Not only are we providing even more kind of capabilities, our response times, so even for like a tier 1 or like a priority 1 response, it's 30 minutes. Really no one else in the industry is doing that. And we think this is really going to help the customer experience and the satisfaction of our customers go through the roof. With this Platinum support level, we really want to be a part of your team, right? Not only is this fast response time like you would expect when something happens internal, you know who to go talk to. We want to be part of your team too. So you'll call, you'll skip right to one of our highest level support folks. It'll be just like you're calling your own IT folks, right? And then we also provide things like quarterly business reviews. This kind of I would say it's more like an internal meeting where we tell you, hey, this is what's coming up in the new release. If you want to move to that new release, here's a plan that we give you on how to upgrade. And we also work on optimizing your network. So if any of the features that we're providing, if we think it's going to help you with your deployment, we'll tell you all about it. We'll tell you how to educate your end users and what you really need to make that transition as smooth as possible, right? We'll also go into the learning aspects of support. So if anything changes in terms of our learning offerings, or if there's a new process or something that's been improved, we'll let you know about it, right? And then we also offer optional add-ons that we know people want. So we've been hearing a lot about resident engineers, those with U.S. citizenships. We're also working on having something for Europe and Asia-Pac, where we have resident engineers there that have citizenship in the area that it's needed. And we're also providing support account managers. So you'll know who you need to call to get help immediately, right? And we think this really, not only is our new support gold level offering better than it was previously, but platinum really is platinum service. This is as good as it gets, the VIP service that we're proud to offer.
So thanks, Asher. So basically what we've talked about today is a new platform that you can take advantage of, managed centrally from Pulse One, and a brand new set of support services that you can wrap around that. But to really help you get started now in terms of if you've got an existing SA or IC from Juniper Networks, we'll provide you with the ability to buy one Pulse Secure appliance and get another one free. And that's basically for the 5,000 and the 7,000. There are some conditions around that. Basically, you can't mix platforms. So if you buy a 5,000, you would only get a 5,000 free, a second 5,000 free. And there are limits in terms of 2 pairs per customer. And also, this offer will only go through the end of the year. So with that, why don't we go to the Q&A section? But before we get into that, if you actually want to see the PSA live and beforehand, you can go to the Gartner Catalyst Conference in San Diego in a couple of weeks. We'll have it there. We'll also talk about how you can leverage that platform in terms of being able to use it with cloud services and how to sort of blend cloud services and data center apps together. So be sure, if you are already set to go to the Gartner Catalyst Conference, be sure to stop by our booth and see the PSA live. Asher, so with that, why don't we start to tag team maybe a little bit on the questions that have come in? Do you want to start things off?
Sure. So the first question we'll go with is, what is the performance difference between the PSA 300 and the PSA 3000? So the PSA 300 and 3000 are pretty much the same box internally. It's just a different form factor. So the PSA 300 is more like a desktop model or something that would go into a rackless wiring closet, or something that can be used at a retail location or branch office where you don't have the typical rack available, right? And then the PSA 3000, that's a full width, one rack unit appliance that can be racked.
So the next question on the list is the built-in EMM capability that we talked about for Pulse One a competitor to Mobile Iron? So the answer really is that it's an alternative to Mobile Iron. If you currently don't have Mobile Iron and you're thinking about looking at Mobile Iron or AirWatch, this would be the best way to think about this is sort of a lightweight alternative to Mobile Iron and AirWatch. It prevents you from having to deploy yet another silo within your data center. And it's basically a feature that you would turn on within Pulse One. And that feature would give you the ability to configure and provision a container, to put apps within that container. Again, the container can go on iOS or Android. It would give you the ability to selectively wipe the container, and then to develop connectivity, basically determine how apps within the container either connect to the cloud or the data center via policy.
Okay, great. One of the other questions we have is, what about virtual appliance? So the virtual appliance is still available, and one of the questions we have is around licensed server. So the model that we continue to go with now is a physical license server is needed, but we're actively looking into how we use something that's cloud-based to get out of that requirement. There's nothing more that I can add to that now, but we realize that for virtual deployments, it really needs to be something that's purely virtual or use a cloud-based licensing model, and we're actively looking at how we're going to do that. So hopefully we'll have updates soon that addresses that.
So another question, not so much about the PSA, more about its predecessor, the MAG. The question is around what software will be supported on that. And going forward, basically the software and policies and so forth that you run on a PSA are also compatible with the MAG. So you can continue to use your MAG within your environment.
Okay, great. Next question, what is the migration process for moving from a MAG SAIC to the new PSA? So, you want to make sure that you have fairly recent software running on the device that you want to migrate from. And then all you would do is export your configuration and then import that back into the PSA. And really, from a software configuration, that's all you really need to do. The other thing you obviously need to do is wire it up so that the PSA internal interfaces and external interfaces are connected. It really is that simple. There isn't too much more you need to do.
So a couple of other questions around Pulse One, so I'll just sort of group them together. The first question, or part A, is where is Pulse One hosted? It's a Amazon Web Services or solution. And we're currently looking at, from a roadmap standpoint, if a perpetual version of that would work, operating within your data center. The other question pertaining to Pulse One is, do I need to use Pulse One exclusively to manage the PSA or the MAG? And the answer to that is, going forward, you can obviously leverage Pulse One to do that, but you still have the same capabilities that you have today in terms of managing each box with a web-based browser.
Great. So Dan, I'll take one more. The next one is, does PSA offer high availability? The answer is yes. So we still can deploy two-node solutions for active-passive or active-active on the lower end, so the PSA 300 and PSA 3000. For the PSA 5000 and PSA 7000, you can do a very simple active-passive kind of deployment, or you can cluster up to 4 nodes, very similar to SAIC and MAG. So yes, we will have high availability. The question also goes into a little more detail, asking about can we do HA across data centers, or like a wide area network, high availability? And the answer is that capability, due to latency and other things that are beyond our control, is not supported. And that's just due to there's too many things that we really can't control, like the connection speeds, things like that. So while we have local area network HA, wide area network high availability is not supported.
All right, thanks, Asher. So that's all the time we have today for questions. A number of you have entered questions that haven't been answered yet. We'll be sure to follow up with each one of you and address your particular topic. The other thing I'll make a note of is that this presentation has been recorded and will be available on our website, so be sure to share that with any coworkers or colleagues that actually want to learn more about the new Pulse Secure Appliance family. And with that, I'll sign off, and thank you very much.